Great Recruiters is the only product in the staffing industry that's actually impacting culture. Feedback is a cultural decision. Feedback is a leadership decision. Feedback is a way of life. It's not a one-off transactional thing.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of On the Clock and Off the Record. Each episode is brought to you by Atlas MedStaff, unapologetically human. Today's guest is someone who is pushing agencies and recruiters to step up their game. Adam Conrad, the founder of Great Recruiters. If you don't know Great Recruiters, think of it as reputation management built for staffing, reaching all the way to the individual recruiter. Adam saw a massive gap in our industry. Recruiters work really, really hard to build that relationship, and then they weren't getting any credit for it. With GR, he's given recruiters a way to connect, showcase, and act on real-time feedback with travelers and candidates that they serve every single day. Today, we're going to talk about transparency, why that matters, what recruiters get right, what they get wrong, and when it comes down to the candidate experience, why reputation is so important. Adam Conrad, welcome to the show.
Rich, it's good to see you, man. I always enjoy talking. I love the passion and energy. I only have one GR logo. You've got all this Atlas stuff. I love your background. I'm going to need to get more GR stuff to paste my background because I'm always jealous when I'm on with you.
Luckily, there's been lots of companies through the years named Atlas. There's only been one, Great Recruiters, though. So how's that?
That is true. That is true. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to share the story.
You want to introduce yourself too, like where you came from. Give me a little background. Give our audience a little bit of background about who you are and where GR came from.
Yeah, so I've been in the staffing industry for 25 years now. Like many people in this industry, I fell into it. I really didn't know what recruiting was. I answered a reference call of a coworker of mine, and that recruiter, in an amazing way, spun that into a recruiting call. And 2 weeks later, I found myself a recruiter that didn't know shit from Shinola. I can tell you that. But that journey is kind of what led me to where I am today. And I kind of have a story of two tales as a recruiter. One that was kind of a low value, didn't really know what was going on, transactional mindset, burnt out, to one that learned the key to this business is the people you work with. It's the relationship. It's the reputation that you create. And, through that journey, I worked my way up through an organization, was COO of about a $40 million IT staffing firm, early adopter of technology, always loved the intersection of the human and the technology piece. And I just knew there was something bigger that I could do for the industry as a whole. And long story short, Great Recruiters was born.
We're going to get into that. We will get into that. Let's get on the clock right now. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. You just alluded to it. Great Recruiters is like nothing that we had in our industry before. Where did the idea come from? Yeah,
so two things. One, I knew there was something out there, and there was a number of things that I had been working on, and the true origin came from a story of a family vacation, which as a recruiter, many people don't get an opportunity to take a week off. It was my first time taking a week off in a very long time. I was with my family. We were down in Florida. We were having a great time, and I met Dan, who was a bartender at the local pool bar. And he was an Ohio State fan. I'm a Michigan fan. There was maybe a little animosity there. But ultimately, he just appeared different. It wasn't about just serving drinks. It wasn't just a transactional thing. He got to know me, my family over the week. And when I left, he handed me a business card and said, Adam, would you mind reviewing your experience? And the biggest key was, he goes, this isn't about the experience you've had here at this hotel and resort. It's about the experience that I created for you while you were there. And immediately it was like, this is it. This is what the recruiting industry needs. And from there was just time, energy, effort to shape out what we created. And really it was born out of that. It was also born out of the fact that, like, when you Googled Recruiters R 8 years ago, it was evil, liar, scumbag, waste of time, don't trust him. It was all negative stuff.
Yeah.
And I was always jealous because my wife was a nurse, still is. But when you put nurses are, it was like helpful, great, so nice. And so there was this feeling that made me realize every recruiter was up against an industry's poor reputation every time they picked up the phone. And I saw an opportunity to create a platform that lowered that barrier, right? That increased transparency and helped lower that barrier to get to trust faster, because it's tough to help somebody that doesn't trust who you are. And through the platform, we've been helping thousands of recruiters, I think over 10,000 recruiters, help establish that trust and transparency. But that's where it was, man. Sometimes the best ideas happen when you're off the clock.
Sometimes the best ideas happen. I was about to show you my water here, but when we have these conversations at the bar after hours, right? And that's the whole idea behind this, is to pull back the curtain a little bit and really understand that there are so many layers to the staffing industry that the average nurse, tech, therapist just doesn't know about, or doesn't understand, or just isn't a part of their daily life. And I want to show that. I want that transparency there, just like what Great Recruiters does for our recruiters.
100%.
All right, so let's talk about that a little bit. Focusing on reputation, focusing on trust. How does GR actually shift that candidate experience for them?
Well, when you're going to be measured, when somebody knows, and it's everywhere in life, right? Everywhere in life. I just got on a chat with a sporting goods store, and immediately after, like, how was your experience, Maria? Right? Everybody wants that feedback. And I think what we do is enable it and make it very easy for candidates, place talent, clients to provide feedback, not on the totality of their experience with the organization, but with the people that are driving that experience. Because the human to human experience is what might make me come back or never go there again. And so we help those recruiters collect that real-time feedback from their candidates, from their clinicians, to help them, one, knowing that you're going to get reviewed. It's a catalyst. Nobody wants a negative review. And so in a way, inadvertently, it's a catalyst. I hate to say it's like a catalyst for good behavior. I say it helps remind you to put your best foot forward, even on your worst day, because recruiting can be tough. You could get off the worst phone call of your life, and that next one's up there. Who's showing up? And this is a way to help remind you to always show up your best and give your best to those candidates, because each one is an opportunity, maybe not for today, but it's a seed that's planted. And if nurtured properly, and if the experience is great, they're going to be a candidate for a lifetime. And when that happens, your recruiting career grows. And that's really what I discovered as a recruiter, is when I started looking at candidates as not, can you fill my job today, but how can I help you today or maybe later in life? It shifts that conversation and it makes it more about them than what I'm looking to accomplish. The results are going to follow. It's just you can choose to do it in a different way that drives more value throughout the entire process.
And we'll get to that, because I recently had a conversation with a friend in the industry who asked me about your product. And he asked it from a pure lead gen perspective. And I said, stop. This is not a lead gen you're not generating leads for your company by using Great Recruiters. You are enhancing the experience of your travelers right now. And you'll get referrals out of that. You're going to get repeat placements. All those things are going to come, but it's not pure lead gen. So talk about that a little bit. Like, someone like me calls you and says, and I wouldn't ask you this, maybe I did in the beginning, who knows? But, I need more leads. How can you give me more leads, Adam? What is your response to that?
Yeah, to me, the leads are the cherry on the top. And if you just want the cherry on the top, you can go buy lists. You can go get inbound applicants. Like, I'm not trying to solve that issue. What I'm trying to solve is your recruiter's dependency on those sources that everyone else has access to. What another recruiter doesn't have access to that you do are your relationships, are your connections, are getting deeper. And that only comes when you have trust. You don't refer people to people you don't trust. And I'll tell you what, Rich, the biggest problem with our platform and for the world out there is that we have more influence. We have a bigger sphere of influence than any other product in the market to drive leads your way. They just don't always come through our platform. Right? If they don't decide to fill out that form for the referral, and instead they email the recruiter with that referral because it's they feel more comfortable, or if they give the recruiter a referral because of the experience they created because we're helping to drive those best practices, or if they see their GR profile out there because they did a Google search for a great travel recruiter and they find them, we don't track all that stuff. And so if somebody's going to look at us for purely how many referrals did you drive through this template on your review process, they're going to be they're going to be left disappointed if that's the only reason.
Right.
When you look at what we do, and I look at your organization and I look at many of our others where they have a tremendous amount of success, Great Recruiters is the only product in the staffing industry that's actually impacting culture. Feedback is a cultural decision. Feedback is a leadership decision. Feedback is a way of life. It's not a one-off transactional thing. And so where Great Recruiters comes in is it provides value to you from a marketing, from an ownership perspective, to a sales leadership, to a recruiting leadership. You know, staffing firms typically look at a lot of the quantitative data, and I know we'll dig into that, but we give the whole other side of that person. The biggest thing that we hear from recruiters, and it's amazing, they use the same three words: motivated, empowered, right? And validated.
Yeah.
What would your organization be like today if all of your recruiters felt motivated, empowered, and validated? That's how do you measure that from an ROI perspective? I don't know. If you have any ideas, I'd love it. But that itself impacts that organization. It impacts that recruiter when they had that bad phone call to pick up the phone again, because they feel the power of what they can do, because they've heard it from so many people. You're doing a great job. And the reality is you can't make everybody happy, but it doesn't mean they don't deserve a voice.
True. Yeah. All right. Last question on the clock. You've worked with a lot of agencies our size, a lot of larger ones, a lot of smaller ones. We all have the same concern. What do you do about negative reviews? How do you convince them that transparency is a strength, not a liability?
Yeah, and that's unpacked in a lot of ways. Let's face it. If you have a negative experience, as human beings, we are more apt to share it.
Always.
Right? So if I have a negative experience, I'm telling my wife about it. I'm telling my buddy. I'm going, can you believe what just happened? And so the reality is, whether or not you're collecting it, negative feedback is being provided about you, your organization. Yeah. So negative feedback isn't something to be feared. What you should fear is the feedback that you never hear. And why is that? Because if you didn't hear it, you can't take action on it. If you can't take action on it, you can't find a resolution. Most people that provide negative feedback are doing so because they didn't feel heard. They didn't get a call back. And these are all things that are solvable if you're able to get on the phone with them. And so if you're not asking and you're not collecting that feedback, I just got off a call with a customer like, we love the negative feedback because we know it allows us to continue strengthening what we do. And it helps us take those situations, and rather than them blasting us online somewhere else or telling all their friends, they're now sharing a story of resolution. I had a problem. I was asked for feedback. I gave that feedback, and oh my gosh, they called me back. And they said, what can we do better? How could we have improved? And when you're confronted with that kind of experience, that actually can make you go from a zero to a hero overnight, because now they're viewing you based on the way you handle the problem, not for the fact that you're trying to ignore it.
Yeah. Perfect. I mean, we've said this to each other before. The court of public opinion is swift and it is brutal. And if it gets out on socials or wherever else, you have no recourse. But through something like this, you can. That's exactly what you just described.
And I will say this, across our platform, there is 5 times more positive feedback being shared than negative. The problem was 8 years ago, there was nowhere to put the positive. So the people who are going to share publicly are typically people that are trying to get something off their chest because they're upset. And so rather than having that just go out there across the internet, bring that back into your organization where you can take time to seek to understand, resolve those issues. But recruiters who are hesitant, they're hesitant because they understand what the reputation of the industry is, and they almost self-reflect like that's the way people feel about them. But when they start getting that feedback and that first 5-star review and they're like, Rich did an amazing job, best recruiter, wasn't able to place me this time, but felt like he was, took care of me. In fact, I referred 2 of my friends, like all of a sudden that recruiter's, sitting up a little taller because we might get feedback from our management. Believe me, there's no better feedback from the people that you're actually out there working to help.
Let's go off the record. And I promise we're not going to bring up riding bulls or anything like that. As much as I wanted to, I promise that we won't. So
you already did.
I know. If you want, those that know the backstory. Those that don't, it's not important. It's a building block of life. How's that? And so
some would say the bull won, but in the grander scheme, I feel like I still came out on top.
If you had just come with me that night, none of this would have happened. But I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So off the record, you built Great Recruiters to bring accountability and transparency to our industry, and our industry still doesn't embrace it. Why? Some in our industry. There are some that do, right? It is prominently featured on my website. It is prominently featured on others' websites. Where's the holdup? Like, why don't others see the value that we see?
It's a loaded question because there's actually a couple different answers. One of the biggest things I see is because I truly don't believe that the leadership in the organization actually believes in who the recruiters are. And they're afraid of what's actually going to be said, and they're afraid to lift up the curtain and see what's underneath. And they're like, we don't need it. We're fine. Right?
Are you fine though? I mean, right?
No, you're just putting on the blinders.
There you go.
And I think others are like, well, we have another solution. We might collect it through an automation, or, hey, we do an end of year survey. And unpacking those, it's like, if you're doing an end of year survey, could you imagine a coach? We just watch Monday Night Football, right? We just watch, the Vikings come back. Could you imagine if that quarterback didn't get any real-time feedback from his coaches, from the fans, and waited till not just the end of the game, but the end of the season? It's ridiculous. It's like you can't do anything with it. Now, it's great to have an end-of-year survey to say who is the MVP of the league. Awesome. Get your award, get your recognition. But if you're looking to fuel your growth in real time, make real in-game adjustments, you need a tool that's going to give you that feedback and in a way allows you to take action on it. Which, when you look at automation, there's a lot of ways you can automate feedback. There's a lot of point solutions. You could use SurveyMonkey. You could use an NPS automation tool within your ATS. But what happens is there's no follow-up. There's no follow-through. There's no data analytics. There's no social media piece. There's no recruiter profiles. It just goes into a black box to be forgotten about forever. And now you're spending all your time and energy trying to aggregate all this together, where if you're using a tool like Great Recruiters, which was designed for feedback, and that's why I say, look, you can dig a ditch using a spoon, but it's a lot more efficient to use a ditch witch. It was built for it. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking for efficiency so your team can focus on what they want to do best, bring in the tools that were built to do the job you're looking to get done. And we were built to help you capture, act on, measure, promote, recognize, and reward, all through real-time feedback.
Was there ever a moment, even now, in the history of Great Recruiters where you thought, we may not survive this? We've all had it.
You know, as a business owner, as everybody, we always have our days that we go, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Is it worth it? What have I gotten myself into? And it does. I think it comes up that you doubt yourself. You know, we get feedback. So it didn't work. Well, I want everybody to love it. And sometimes I think for me, it was like, I felt like I did something wrong. And as I've just learned and grown and talked to organizations, it's like, no, they're looking for a point solution to fit into some transactional model. And they don't even embrace the cultural side of it. And so, you know, it's a daily question that keeps me driving. I'm never satisfied. What can I do better? What didn't work? How can I make it work? But I'll tell you, the first time I launched, I sat next to Bill Pepler. He'll remember this story at Calavero. And he said to me, "You built what? Why the hell would anybody want feedback on their recruiters from candidates?" And I'm excited. I'm about to launch. I'm about to exhibit. And like at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, what does he know that I don't know? And to me, it's like, you got to be a duck. You got to let that stuff just roll off the back. Maintain focus on what your vision is. Understand what problem you're solving and stay true to what you're looking to accomplish. And for me, I want all the candidates in the world to only work with great recruiters, because I know at a minimum, they're going to put in their best effort to create a great experience. And if you got a choice of someone who's unknown versus somebody who's known that creates great experiences, why wouldn't you want to work with them first?
Right. So building and running a reputation-based platform is not an easy thing. I absolutely, I have nothing to do with this, and I know it's not easy. Is there ever a time, or do you, and I have a feeling the answer is going to be all the time, where you feel like your reputation, who you are, and what you've built is on the line?
Yeah, it's every day. It's my baby, right? Nobody wants to tell you your baby's ugly. But for me, I have to embrace what we're asking the recruiters to. And for me, what I've learned is that when there is something negative, when there is something said about it, when it is the reputation, I go back to seek to understand. Like, I don't think there's anybody out there that says, my goal in life is to create a poor experience for you. My goal in life is to make your life miserable. It's not. And I think sometimes you feel like a failure when you hear that, and you feel like, oh my God, what is my reputation? And I have a reputation for getting on bulls, right? I have a reputation for having a good time. But, for me, I think holding true to what I truly believe and what I see through the success of the platform, and my success really isn't my success, because my success is nothing without the organizations like yours and all the recruiters and all the credentialers and everybody that's getting the feedback. Great Recruiters is nothing without them. It doesn't do anything alone. It requires that human input. So I always take it personal, and I shouldn't, but I think I want to understand, what am I missing? Because if somebody's so far left and I'm so far right, there's a gap there. And I'm inquisitive, and I want to understand what that gap is. And sometimes there's no way to fill that gap. There's just misaligned expectations. But I find through conversations and seeking to understand and being vulnerable, having some humility, when you open yourself up that way, a lot of really good things happen. And that takes a lot for people to want to do. But I've learned through this experience, it's the only way to conduct the business.
Last question off the record. If you could go back in time and tell yourself one thing before you started GR about where you are right now. And it's not don't get on the bull. What is that? What is that one thing?
Becoming an overnight success takes a lot of years.
That's so
right?
true. Yes.
We see these folks that, oh my God, look at how great they're doing. Oh my gosh. What we don't see is all the blood, sweat, tears, worries, anxiety, issues, problems, sleepless nights, all the effort that goes into it. There's nothing that's an overnight success. So ignorance is bliss is what I used to say. And so I didn't know what I was getting into. When I was like, this is great. I'm going to be a tech founder. We're going to build this platform that everybody's going to love. They're going to highly adopt. Why wouldn't they want this? And you realize like there's a lot of reasons why not. And so it makes you kind of go back to say, am I asking the right questions? Am I having the right conversations? But I would have told myself, enjoy the journey. There is no overnight success. It's going to take a lot of hard work. There's going to be times where you want to pack up and quit. But if you believe in it, just take one more step forward. And that's a big thing I say. Just get 1% better every day. I wish I would have had that. I think it would have calmed a lot of stress and anxiety in the beginning. But I think it's so true in so many aspects of life.
All right, rapid fire. And let's wrap this up. I'm going to ask you a couple questions here. Give me the quick answer, all right? I got the first one from Stephen Colbert. What kind of sandwich is best?
Reuben.
Fantastic answer. First concert.
Lollapalooza or Steve Miller, not quite too sure, but it was either Lollapalooza or Steve Miller.
Lollapalooza, what year?
Lollapalooza, Pine Knob, my gosh, sometime in high school, man, in the 90s. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. And so we went to those like Sonic Youth, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Mighty was on a side stage. Like I watched bands go from that third stage to, years later on the main stage, right?
Yeah. Coolio.
It was cool.
That was that first year that we went. That was crazy. The Coolio stage, it was second stage. And there were more people at the second stage than there were on the main stage.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. What's the most used app on your phone right now?
Wow. You know what? A couple months ago, I would have said Game Changer because that's where I collected all my stats for my son and the baseball and everything. And it probably is with the amount of baseball I had. It's probably the number one app. My go-to app right now on a daily basis is the Calm app.
Is what?
Calm. You think I need that?
Okay. All right.
It's meditation, it's sleep, it's gratitude, it's things to, it could be called grounded, but it is a go-to.
No, I have so much to learn here. All right. What is your guilty pleasure?
IPAs and darts.
We've had our share of both of those things, so that's true.
Yeah, I would say I'd stay away from it more. It certainly is not bull riding. I can tell you that.
It is not. It totally is not. All right, last question. The staffing industry would be better if
every staffing firm used great recruiters, because at least everybody could be stacked up, rated, ranked. You know exactly where you stand in everybody's eyes. It'd be easier for clients to go ahead and find what they want. It'd be easier for candidates to identify who's going to help them. It's going to go ahead and let the cream rise to the top. And when you know who's the best, you don't need the rest.
All right, wrap it up for me. Where can they find you? Where can they find great recruiters?
You can find great recruiters at www.greatrecruiters.com. You can find me on LinkedIn /A Conrad. You can find me on Facebook, and I'm sure if you just Googled my name, you would see a lot of stuff out there. But I think for me, the decision to do this was not about driving a product. It was about improving an industry that I felt desperately needed it. And I've seen over the last 8 years the impact down to individuals, down to organizations. And to me, it's crazy to say it's 8 years in, but it's just the beginning for us, Rich.
I agree. Adam, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on with me. And we didn't even get into the really here's what everyone doesn't understand. Adam and I have spent more time together at conferences than I've spent with probably, I don't know, anybody else. So there's stories about him maybe jumping off of a balcony and trying to slide down a palm tree. Right? There's stories about me that I don't want him to ever tell about meeting people and then not remembering who they are the next day.
It's all good. But all of those, like your best vacation is not the one where the sun shined and there was no problems. You forget that fast. You remember when you were out there on vacation and the storm came in, you had to run and there was lightning everywhere and trees were blowing around. You remember those moments. So, if it was just a regular calm walk, Rich, you probably wouldn't have remembered that small moment where I thought I could make it to a palm tree, which I did not try. Thank you.
You didn't. To be fair, a bunch of frat boys actually stopped you from doing it, which I think that tells the whole story right there. If they're not going to do it, you probably shouldn't.
Which right there is an example of the power of real-time feedback. Had they waited until afterwards, hey, that wasn't a good idea. It's like it's in hindsight,
Yeah. All right, well, Adam, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on with me today. Join us for our next episode where we talk to another industry insider about the staffing world.